Good day, Mapúa community.
Hello and welcome to a talk Untitled, Shake, Rattle, and Roll. My name is Xandra Gabayeron.
And my name is Tyrone Manalo, reporting for today's breaking news.
For today's headline, we will be investigating the Land Ecological Reservoir with its Biogeochemical Cycle, Sedimentary and Phosphorus Cycle, with some sub-questions as we search for an answer to the question, are humans invasive? Shortly, we will be going live with our reporter, Mr. Banal, for the discussion of the relationship between our biogeochemical cycle with the Land Ecological Reservoir. Reporting live, we have Mr. Banal.
Yes, Sandra. First up, we have the sedimentary cycle wherein it involves the weathering of an existing rock following the erosion of minerals, its transport and deposition. How is this related to the phosphorus cycle? Here's the answer. The phosphorus cycle is a sedimentary cycle, and the atmosphere does not serve as a reservoir for the phosphorus. It has a high significance of dependence on the lithosphere as its reservoir. This is where the involvement of Land Ecological Reservoir comes into play. Phosphorus enters the biosphere almost entirely from the soil through absorption by plant roots. The weathering of rocks involved in the sedimentary cycle contains phosphate minerals through the process of phosphorus traveling along the food chain and decomposition. It will be then again released in the plant available in organic forms. With that, mineralization exists, a term that describes the process involving the release of organically bound nutrients to plant available forms. With that, it is evident that the sedimentary and phosphorus cycles are indeed married to the Land Ecological Reservoir. Back to you, Sandra.
Thank you for that, Mr. Banal. On the other line, we have another reporter with some piece of information about the anthropogenic effect. Mr. Batala, are you there?
Reporting live with the breaking news about anthropogenic effects. We may or may not notice, but we, humans, have been acting as the biggest titans and invade these cycles. First up, human-induced changes. We have been involved in the mobilization of phosphorus from the Earth's crust and the atmosphere into the environment, increasing 13 times. Major causes: fossil fuel burning, land cover change, cement production, and the excess extraction and production of fertilizer for agriculture induces the indirect effects on climate.
That is indeed an interesting piece of information about how humans are involved in the biogeochemical cycles. However, I have a question. Is there any other environment involved in the phosphorus cycle?
The answer is yes. The phosphorus builds up in upland soils and could also cause water quality problems such as over-enrichment in water bodies like lakes, streams, and rivers. Phosphorus enters the aquatic ecosystem because it is absorbed by soil particles that are eroded into the water bodies through the sedimentary cycle. Other than eutrophication, mining phosphorus and transporting it in fertilizer strongly contributes to the alteration of the global phosphorus cycle, which eventually affects freshwater ecosystems. That's all. Back to you, Sandra.
Thank you, Mr. Batala. And again, we are one step closer to finding the answer to our initial question, are humans invasive? However, we still have a lot of information in store for us for today's headline. Next up, invasive species.
Species is an organism that is not indigenous or native to a particular area, which can cause great economic and environmental harm to a new area. Many invasive species destroy habitat, the places where other plants and animals naturally live. Nutria is a large rodent native to South America. Ranchers brought them to North America in the 1900s, hoping to raise them for their fur. Some nutria were released into the wild when the ranchers failed. Today, they are a major pest in the Gulf Coast and the Chesapeake Bay regions of the United States. Nutria eats tall grasses and rushes. These plants are vital to the region's marshy wetlands. They provide food, nesting sites, and shelter for many organisms. They also help secure sediment and soil, preventing the erosion of land. Nutria destroys the area's food web and habitat by consuming the wetland grasses.
That is very fascinating. But moving on with our reporting, let's now have Mr. Wu on how do invasive species control the phosphorus cycle. Mr. Wu, take it away.
The ecosystems of the Laurentian Great Lakes have been dramatically re-engineered by invasive bottom-dwelling racinaid masses. A key question is whether these biological changes altered whole ecosystems biogeochemistry. In particular, the cycling of phosphorus, a key nutrient that limits biological productivity in freshwater ecosystems. We show that phosphorus cycle in the invaded Great Lakes is now regulated phytopopulation dynamics of a single benthic species, the quagga mussel. This qualitatively changes the responses of the affected lakes to phosphorus inputs from watersheds, complicates predictions, and necessitates a new paradigm for managing these large aquatic ecosystems. Invasive species are well known to impact many aspects of ecosystems, including biodiversity, food web structure, and ecosystem functioning. Phosphorus has been a big part of just about any water quality discussion, including those about its level in the Great Lakes.
As we go on with this interview, did you know that the environment we live in and the activities we do can affect the way our genes operate? This is where epigenetics plays an important role, since it is the study of the heritable changes that can cause activation and deactivation of genes without any change in the DNA sequence of an organism. So here's my question for you, Ms. Carlos. How does the environment we are surrounded by affects our genes?
Our environment influences our genome through the so-called epigenetic modifications. It is safe to say that our genes listen to the environment in complex ways that affect both our health and our behavior. The food we eat, the drugs we intake, the anxiety and stress we feel, our lifestyle, and the place we live can adapt both our host cells and our DNA. In epigenetic modifications, the cells constantly receive all kinds of signals informing an individual about its environment, so that it specializes during development or adjusts the actions being portrayed to the situation. These signals are related to our behaviors such as diet, smoking, stress, and etc. Can lead to changes in expression of our genes without affecting their sequence.
Interesting. However, I am still curious about the epigenetic effects on our climate change and on the phosphorus cycle.
Entire ecosystems are changing in response to climate change, and these changes can be traced to the modified epigenomes of organisms. Increasing temperatures on land can also result in epigenomic responses from organisms, especially for the plant species, which cannot adapt to environmental stressors by changing migration patterns or behavior.
Thank you for enlightening us with that information, Ms. Carlos. There you have it, Mapuans. Thank you for tuning in to a talk entitled Shake, Rattle, and Roll.
Once again, I am Xandra Gabayeron,
And I'm Tyrone Manalo,
signing out.